Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are live here on Sylvester Hannigan Show. It's essentially, uh, we could say it's a Sylvester Hannigan Show, but to the same degree, it's Trade Fat Show, where we encourage people to trade the fat out of their lives, not just the fat off their bodies. We try to trim up all of the bullshit out of your life, all the things that are causing you harm, because at the end of the day, if you have somewhat depression or any other form of mental disability or mental illness or, form of manic depression, manic bipolar, any of those sorts of things, we need to treat the root cause before we start ingesting medications. There's a lot of things we can do to stamp out the fire without trying to chuck a bucket of water on a bushfire, if you know what I mean. Because that's all antidepressants are if you solely rely on those. For the most part, like I say, this show is about mental health, physical health, spiritual health, and essentially getting past all of those detrimental behaviours that have been around for a very long time in our lives and are pretty much reinforced every day through the media that we watch, on our phones, on the TV. Marketing is pretty much everywhere out on the street. No matter where you go, there's influential things that will steal your attention and can lead you down a dark rabbit hole, essentially. So you got to be self-aware. You got to sort of understand that, a lot of your decisions aren't actually based around you deciding with free thought. It's been a manipulation of your mind. And a lot of people don't want to believe that, so they stay in their little corner or their little thought pattern and don't address a lot of the things that they need to. It took me a very, very long time. Once I'd gone down the wrong road for a very long time, picking up all sorts of habits that essentially from a young age I never thought to have or would have thought that I would be. And I don't think too many people, thought that they're always going to be addicted to drugs of some description or addicted to anything, whether it be food, sex, or all of the above. So there's ways to negate it, but first and foremost, the number one thing that you want to look for is patterns in your own behavior. If you're reaching your 30s, it's a lot easier to look behind the last 10 years and see what certain cycles of emotions and patterns of your life have reoccurred and what are the similarities in between each and every cycle, and narrowing down the problem and not denying yourself the truth. It's very easy to sort of take your own side too much, to believe that you're never in the wrong. I think it's very, very, very important to be self-critical. At the same time, you also need to make sure you don't develop negative thought patterns as well. So recognizing these things first, that's where you can only start. You're not going to change your life around in one day. It's taken me almost 10 years to sort of, maybe a little bit less, from when I really first started looking into self-improvement and assessing my life was probably, when I was about 26 maybe. Yeah, about 26, when I was in Canada. Spent a lot of time by myself, traveling around there and meeting new people and different things. And when I came home, I realized I'd sort of picked up a few different habits that weren't necessarily benefiting my mental health. And I was in denial for a very long time of certain things. And, once you hit some form of rock bottom, or a brick wall or something, or have some form of a meltdown, and hopefully it doesn't ever get to that point, but certainly for me, I had a bit of a meltdown at one point and developed a really negative mindset. And it wasn't until I actually sort of started to analyze myself in an honest and truthful way that I managed to start digging my way back out and addressing one thing at a time. And slowly but surely we got to a very, very mentally safe place, if you will. I still have my battles all the time, as everybody does. I think it's a never-ending issue. We all like to think that we can just cure ourselves and carry on our own way, and with certain habits still being in place. And realistically, is that it's a daily thing. Every time you go to sleep, you wake back up with the same tasks at hand to keep the demons and the dragon at bay. So, it's okay to fail, but it's more important to recognize the failure. If you don't recognize it, then you'll never ever learn from those mistakes. Everything bad in life has something good to take away from it. I've always kept that in mind, because it is. I mean, at the end of the day, if something causes you pain, you got to identify what it is that caused you that pain. So then if you can either adjust when it happens again, use it as a notification of emotion rather than an all-out attack. Each emotion that we feel, and we go through them all day, every single one of them, literally, it's a cycle of emotions all day. Some days are slightly higher than others, some a little bit lower, but for the most part, they're all notifications from the universe to tell you, hey, you're a bit vulnerable there. You need to tighten up on watching certain individuals in your area, or just how did you let that person into your life to get that close in order for them to do something so horrific to you, or whatever it is. You got to be aware of the people and be honest with yourself as well. It's one thing to see the good in everybody, but you've also got to see an apple for an apple, or an orange for an orange. Don't be fooled by a wolf in sheep's clothing. You know what I mean? So you just gotta navigate these things. But like I say, sobriety should be where you're wanting to reach. Granted, your 20s, if you make it through them, eventually everybody, to a degree, sees the light at the end of the tunnel and realizes that drinking and all these sorts of other external substances take you away from the purity of your own mind. Sobriety is the best thing you could possibly do. I mean, this is for the people who obviously may struggle with addiction and things like that. This is not necessarily just for, I'm sure there's people out there that can have 1 or 2 drinks or 3 drinks and go home and have, and also have a good time and enjoy themselves. They're not bound by addiction like a lot of people. But for the most part, mental health really declines from addictions to something. Those two are linked. I severely believe, because most people, I guarantee you, when you scrape below the surface of somebody who claims to be depressed or anything like that, there's some form of substance abuse, if not addiction to, such as food, porn, sex, all the things that instant gratification brings you. You know what I mean? And all we got to do is defer those addictions, replace them with another one. So at first, you can either be shocked into, having an authority of some person that you respect tell you, pull your fucking head in and stop this moment right now. It takes a very authoritative person who is living a life in which you dream of living to listen to them. A lot of the time, family members and things like that, there's very small chance of you convincing another person that's addicted to some form of substance that you're the right person to tell them. As I've found out many a time, as much as you want to save somebody, sometimes, the only way of saving somebody is they have to save themselves. There's nothing you can do for somebody. You can be there of support, but for the most part, you got to make sure that, sometimes you need that person to be completely alone. As sad as it sounds, if they keep repeating the same mistakes and crying about the same old shit, sometimes you just got to leave them be and just go, well, I've tried everything, but ultimately they've got to make the decision for themselves. They've got to hate their position in life so badly that they go, fuck this, okay, what am I doing wrong? What can I do right tomorrow? And, slowly, seek help. That's all I did. I was buried in addictions for a very long time, and all I did was just research. What can I do? Why am I addicted? What do addicted people personality traits? What are they? Why? Blah blah blah. Just research everything you possibly can, and then you'll get my respect in the sense of, okay, yeah, I'm fucking struggling here. I don't know how to get out. I've done everything. I've tried this. I've tried that. Then I can, most certainly have respect in the sense that you're trying to better yourself. You can see, small results falls off. Small results falls off. It takes a long time to get to a completely sustainable, consistent sobriety, especially if you're a highly addictive person. But like I say, it's completely possible because I did it. I had 10 years worth of addictions of all sorts. I slowly dropped one by one. I'd be really good and then, cycle back into my bad habits. Be really good, cycle back into really bad habits. And a lot of the time it was just one event that would, trigger me or, I just slipped up. I'd be perfect because I go all in. I can't do things half-assed. I go all in and then I'd slip up with one thing, maybe, reward myself with a night out drinking with the boys. And then next, every other weekend after that, I'm fucking sinking piss and getting fucked up. And as soon as you let that demon back in, it takes fucking over real quick. So, but then again, always in the back of the mind that I knew that where I wanted to be and what was the right thing to do, which was to get as sober as I possibly can. So, sober as I possibly can. Get sober, you know what I mean? Or drop a lot of the core habits that I had. And I've done that over the years, but ultimately kept on cycling through and couldn't keep consistency, So when I came across Wes Watson and the way that he spoke about his life, where it led him, and where he ended up after that, I came across him virtually when he first came out of prison, and his first lot of videos came out, and I just was addicted to him. Like, to everything he was saying was just all I had thought about, but never quite. Here's the thing, I'm a highly intuitive individual, and as I was talking with my mother the other day, she said, you're very wise for your age. You're far ahead of your own self, and that was quite a nice compliment to have. But because I've always felt like that, being a person who was silent for most of my, childhood, and I just observed and listened. So I managed to gain a lot of perspective of how humans interact, and how they perceive and deceive. Essentially a human lie detector. And so, that being said, when I came across Wes, everything he spoke to me, it was things that I was just like, wow, he gets me. He gets it. He understands things that most people don't. And so, when he started spitting the truth down the lens to me, it hit me with emotion that made my hair stand up. I knew that he could help me, and he did. I've done his program 4 times, I believe, 2 or 3 times, maybe something like that. And I've fallen off, back on, fallen off, back on, and the best shape I'd ever been in, the best mental clarity. Actually, it wasn't even the best shape I'd been. I'd been in slightly better shape before, but I was in pretty good nick. But mentally, he had my nutrition on point, dialed right in to the point where my mind was so clear. I was getting downloads every single morning, all day at work. Here's one thing. You can't, for the life of you, try to make the hairs stand up on the back of your neck. But when you resonate with a message or a thought that you don't know where it came from, and it rings so true to the purpose and what you want to do in life, the hairs stand up on your body. And you can't physically make them happen. Right now, I can't do it unless I think of something so profoundly in alignment with my purpose that it just gives me shivers all over my body just thinking about it. And that was my biggest download from his program. It wasn't about the fitness. I had trained a lot. I trained and done all the exercises. All my mates were bodybuilders, so I learned a lot from all of them well before I met Wes, and I'd gotten insane shape. But his mental clarity and the reasons why you do such things clarified the reason for consistency, non-negotiable tasks, things that, and using people in your life as emotional motivators, realizing what you need to do, why you need to prove successful in all areas of your life, not just in one, and lean on it and stick there and, look at me, hey, look, mate, I got heaps of money. But fucking, I'm a big fat cunt. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm shredded with no money. It's the same sort of principle. Not that money's the be all and end all, but it's certainly you're better off with it. Every poor person on this planet wishes they had a lot of money. There's not a fucking single one that doesn't, and that's just a lie to yourself if you believe so. Because if anybody could be a millionaire overnight by clicking their fingers, they would. So, the hostility that some people get when they all of a sudden come into a lot of money is just like dragons at the door. They're just fucking vicious with their resentment, because why has he got what I've always wanted? So he shines a light on how imperfect we are and how much room we have for improvement, and he doesn't lower his standards for nobody. He makes you raise yours, and being around people like that is just an absolute refreshing thing, because it's a rarity. It's extremely rare. Wes would be one of the 0.001% of the population in terms of the way he runs his life. Granted, he has his things just like anybody else, but, he has the tools in which to, not negotiate with self, to be of the subconscious mind. And, people like to judge. We go, oh, well, he did 10 years in prison. He can't be that nice of a person. Well, you're thinking superficially. You're thinking on the surface level. I'm thinking about, what does extreme isolation do to you? Could you do fucking 10 days without leaving a bathroom? You couldn't do fucking 3 days. You would lose your fucking mind. You can go on YouTube right now and you can see those people that go, what would I do if I was in extreme isolation? There's people that can't last fucking 48 hours. It's unfucking believable. Like, unreal. Like, I'm very much easy enough isolated and alone. But imagine that. Not only that, every day somebody's potentially trying to kill you. So you're in a perpetual state of fear to a degree. I mean, he ended up, obviously negating that, and you really got to go listen to his story. It's quite impressive. So, with that being said, I knew he had the answers, and he did. And, like I said today, was that, I didn't fail, his program didn't fail me. I failed his program. I slipped up, and then I tried to, like the best expression he puts it is that he's a person that if he pops one tire, he's likely to burn the whole fucking car. Because of it, you know what I mean? And sometimes I'm a bit like that. I'm a perfectionist, and so if I'm going really, really, really good, and then I slip up and have one beer with a mate because I was feeling really good on a day, and I thought, my old thoughts come back in, and I think, you can have a beer. Next thing you know, you have 7 or 8, and next thing you know, you're shit-faced, and in the morning you feel terrible, so you don't work out, and then you slip one day, and it just barrel rolls down the fucking hill. And that's sort of what happened to me. And because I can't handle the disappointment of myself for letting one night slip away from me, and then I go and fuck up a whole 6 months later, you know what I mean? So that sort of behavior is cyclical for me, and also it's something that I'm working on. Like I say, Rome wasn't built in a day, and you're not going to tackle every single problem in your life in fucking 4 months, So it took him 10 years in the cell to then have come out and improve himself, and within 5 years become as successful as he is, So there's merit in looking at people who are successful and taking away what good they have, and it just so happens that Wes has a lot of great advice and success along with results to prove it. So, that's why, it's something that I take seriously and I listen to. So that being said, look after your mental health, because it's really is the only thing we have is our mental health. Physical health, mental health. Now, there's another one I was talking to, Sheik, today. I said to him, he said a profound Instagram post, and I'd posted it today, and I thought, it made a lot of sense. And then we were saying to him, people think it's mind, body, and soul. It's not mind, body, and soul. It's soul. It's body, mind, soul. Get your body right and in the best condition it can possibly and your mind will follow along with your soul. Your spirit will then be in alignment with what you are supposed to be as a human being. When you clog it full of all these processed foods and all this television, all this fucking phone screening and all that sort of thing, you dilute your entire brain. You do not think for yourself, and you cannot be in alignment when you are consuming. You need to be producing. So this is why I'm here today as well, because, this is why I'm doing this. It's like my ideal life is to be a hermit living in the middle of nowhere, just fucking surfing all day and just fucking, being by myself. That would be my dream. But it's not the reality. People need my help. I've been through pain that others are going through or have been through or need help navigating, and that's my purpose on this life. So it'd be completely selfish for me to keep all of that experience to myself. So this is why I'm on here. It's not because I love myself or I really want to fucking all the attention. It's complete opposite. In fact, I'd much like my dream, like I just said, is to be completely alone. I love being by myself. Obviously, I'd love to have a partner as well. If she was into the same thing, we would do it. But for the most part, putting myself out there isn't something I'd really like to do, but it is what I have to do. And it's not about me, it's about everybody else. Because when you think less of yourself, you do more for others, abundance comes your way. So when you take yourself out of the picture in every endeavor that you do, you will live a life of abundance, and that's something I'm putting into practice now. So here is the first episode, finally recorded with sound. Hopefully it doesn't echo, but I had a mare the other night. I recorded 2 half-an-hour podcasts and ended up completely fucking around with the audio. Thought I got it right, could hear myself, and then by accident I pressed mute on the mic and it didn't record. Oh, mate, anyway, such is life. But, my second favourite thing in the world is, apart from mental health, and what is good for your mental health, is laughing. Comedy. It's the best thing you could possibly do. It took away a lot of my pain. It was the first painkiller that I ever came across at a young age when I watched Snatch at about 13 years old. And my favourite comedian, and one of my first comedians I ever came across was Billy Connolly, and he's just one of the funniest people on the planet. And I highly suggest you guys, if you don't know who he is, to go and watch him and just sit there and laugh your ass off. It'll be the best thing for you, especially if you're not having the greatest of days or something is bugging you in your mind. Just go and put your feet up for fucking half an hour and go and watch a bunch of his shows. He is highly entertaining, and you can't keep your eyes off him. So that being said, I'll finish this podcast here, but for the most part, like I say, we'll be tuning in. I'll be telling a few of my stories myself, some of the things that I've gone through in life, talking about my mother's bipolar. There'll be a lot of her stories involved as well. We'll be interviewing her. I'll do a live reading with her. She's very much into her tarot cards, and whether you are or you're not, doesn't really matter, because, I like to live in a life where I believe rather than shut the doors on things that have some form of potential to helping your life, you know what I mean? I like to make the decision for myself rather than hear other people's versions of what they believe in. So there you have it, Lenny Kravitz. Put that in your pocket for later, pull it out, and we'll be back soon. And on the Trade Fat Show. Thank you very much for listening.